Hello, guys, and welcome. I'm gonna do a short market update. It's mostly gonna be about the bigger picture here because a lot has happened, and I really haven't been able to do a market update, mostly because I got stuck in a car crash, which really sucked, by the way. So I just want to talk about what the market is doing right now, talk about Bitcoin for a bit, and just look over the bigger picture, not go too much in depth on most other alts. For Bitcoin, things have been really, really exciting. We've been actually performing really well, and there's a couple things going on here. First of all, is that we have finally reached the major resistance here. When we took this position, and it was pretty much this position that we took as soon as we exited here. Um, should adjust it just a little bit. We took the long, which performed really well, and of course our target was 6,000 USD, and we have thus far reached that target. And this target is actually based on what happens in the past. Let's just quickly go over it for the ones that haven't really followed my live stream before. Bitcoin, after we made this high at 20K, really just took a huge dump back to 6,000. And ever since, it's been going back to the 6,000 level, each time making a lower high until eventually, of course, Bitcoin just crashed straight through it. We had this massive move down, of about 50%. This was a pretty big move in a very short period of time. So, of course, we were looking for a rebound. It didn't really happen. We were waiting on it for 126 days, and then finally we broke through and we retested that level because I've always said that this level needed retesting. And that's pretty much what's happening here right now. You can see that we managed to touch the 6,000 level, and if we go to the 4 hourly chart, you can see that once we did, it got immediately followed by a bearish response, which of course makes a lot of sense. And also, if you look at the relative strength index, the RSI, and the price level, you can see that the price increased right there. And let's make this white, but the RSI did not manage to make a higher high, which means that we have bearish divergence and that we should be looking for a retrace. Obviously, after we've been making this support now turned resistance for almost a year, there's no way in hell we're just gonna crash straight through it and go back to 20K levels. That's not gonna happen. So what I personally really expect to happen here is that we are gonna make a retrace, which of course would make a lot of sense if we do that back to like 4500. If we take our Fibonacci retracement tool, which indicates support and resistance levels, and we look at the 618, you can see that the 618 is matched precisely with the previous resistance. So if we combine these two levels, we also need pieces of knowledge in order to form a target. And our first piece of knowledge is that this was a pretty strong resistance until we managed to crash through and, start a moon trip. Second of all, we've got the 618 at the exact same level. So that's our second piece of knowledge, which gives us a target of 4,400 USD. So obviously the RSI is turning bearish right now. The price just touched this big resistance, and I wouldn't be surprised if we just go back down and calm down a bit towards 4,400. Now, if we want to combine this with the bigger picture, which is something we are going to do right now, let us just open up something else. Bitstamp, there we go. If we combine this with the bigger picture, which is what I've sketched out here with this pitchfork, I've been using this pitchfork for about 2 years now, and it's been very accurate so far. You can see that eventually we topped out at the second resistance level right here. So we made a good peak, and then we just managed to go sideways for a very long time until surprisingly, I kind of expected the price to, just move towards this support and then crash through, but we just made this massive move. And now you can see that within this pitchfork, we pretty much managed to retest this support turned resistance right here. So this is pretty much the retest. And if we pair this against the previous bear market, because these white lines you see right there, this is an exact copy of the previous bear market. So pretty much what I did, I took my bars pattern tool, I just took this whole piece of data right there and I just copy pasted it to our current situation. And I should pretty much try to leave this massive spike out. It will make things a little bit more clear. But you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much gonna look like this. And if you copy this and you paste it, you can see that our bottom should be around 4400 to 4000. And this is what I expect. You know, I expect that we are gonna have a good period of accumulation here. Um, just as we did in the previous bear markets, because after this whole bear market, the market just had to go sideways for about a year, and I wouldn't really be surprised if we have another year of sideways to go. This might sound like very bad news, but it's actually good news, because in these kinds of trading periods, that's where alts shine. So it's not a bad idea to start accumulating some good alts right now, in order to be ready for this massive bull run that we've probably gonna experience by the end of at the start of 2020. That's when I expect things to turn around, and this is pretty much what I expect it to look like. And you know, probably most money in alts is gonna be made right here. And then after that, of course, just like the last market bull run, alts are gonna dump and Bitcoin is gonna take a moonshot, which isn't all that bad. And this is really, you know, realistically what I'm expecting. Makes a lot of sense. It's what happened in the past like two times already. And I just go with the things that have um, a certain pattern. You know, this is the current pattern that we have in Bitcoin, and this is what I'm currently trading at, and this is how I see the market flowing. And if I put it back into one day, you can see that this is pretty much logical, to put it that way. For alts, a little bit of a different story there. Alts are currently taking a pretty good dump, which isn't all that bad. You know, if you look at CoinMarketCap, it's not a terrible situation that we're in. But I pretty much expect, because you know, Ethereum for me represents most of the alts, and we just broke this massive resistance. And you know, pretty much everyone seems to be bearish on alts on Twitter, at least. So this is probably the best time to get into alts, because when everybody is on one side of the boat usually flips over. And this is what I expect to happen here. We managed to break through this resistance. We managed to do two separate retests, both of which times this trend line has held its ground, and now it might be time for a move up. Now, if we remove the log scale here, kind of the same situation in the linear trend. We broke the current downtrend, and now Ethereum is trying and struggling to get back up. So where does that leave us for ETH? I believe pretty much our first target is going to be the 236, which is currently located, please excuse me, at 300 USD. And see kind of the same situation, for example, on EOS, and see that it managed to, you know, it managed to crawl back up. And just this pattern, you know, you can see it across the whole market. It's an accumulation pattern, and it might even potentially be a head and shoulders. And I don't know yet. I'm not entirely sure, but this is what it could be. And if it is, then we're gonna just take this, move it up, because that should be a target. Target equals the bottom of the head to the top of the shoulder, and that should give us a target of 10 US dollars. And of course, if we just put our Fibonacci straight over this, you can see that it pretty much lines up with the 382. And I can pretty much go on talking about this here. We've got a Cardano paired against USD. Very much the same story. It managed to crawl back up. Currently, I wouldn't be surprised if we are creating an HS here as well on a larger time frame, of course, and it should look something like this. Of course, I just like to look at the unbalanced volume. It tells us way more, and the list goes on. Neo, there against Bitcoin. This is a different story, and this is why I just took Neo as the next example. You can see that Neo is currently breaking the final support. And what I mean to say by this is that during the internet bubble, like 90% of all the projects and companies died. So you shouldn't expect just to put your money into a random bunch of alts and get rich. Like probably most of the top 50 alts are gonna die and new alts are gonna replace them. And the reason I'm saying this is because I can hear a lot of people still going all in Tron or Neo or whatever, and you should like really be careful doing that. So make sure to make a good selection. And for me, my bet is on the relatively new alts that haven't really mooned yet in the history. Currently Raven did very well. We can look at a couple other examples, but we don't really have to. Just make sure to make a careful selection, and then you should be fine. So currently, I'm really waiting right now because we did have a position, obviously, and our position has just finished. We just reached the resistance. It's okay to close your longs here. I'm personally closing a lot of longs that I had opened from pretty much uh, December. Back in the time when we were creating this, and just let me show you this. When we were creating this descending wedge, I took the longs and I managed to sit on these longs for a very long time. My opening level was about 3200 when we broke out, never went there again, and now it's finally time to close them. And this position took me 143 days to complete. And this is something you have to realize. Like, if you want to be a trader, the number one important thing or virtue that you can have is patience, and it pays off. I can obviously believe that a lot of people have sold their positions at this period in time when it just seemed that Bitcoin was going to go and crash further. But if you have a plan, if you have a strategy, you should never really mind the time. You should just mind your strategy, and that way you should be fine. So this was the overview. Um, I really do hope that tomorrow evening I can do a request live stream. So just in case, if you're not in my traders community, just go to cryptocampus.io and wait a couple seconds. Really should improve this loading time a little bit. Scroll down and just join our server. If you click there, you will be invited to our Discord. And in this Discord, we mostly share trading positions, but we also share pictures of cats, which is really fun. For that reason alone, all of you should join. But anyway, tomorrow I'll be there for a request live stream, and I hope that you guys can just fill in your request on the Discord already so I can get started and really nail this down, because this is a really exciting time for the market. Like, for real, this is probably one of the best times to be in the markets, because everybody believes money is made here, but it is wrong. In a way, you have to make sure that you make the money here, and this is just where you cash in. So start stacking your positions. Make sure to be engaged, and then hopefully in 2 years we can have one giant party. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoy your weekend.